This is Victor Miller, and I wrote the first Friday the 13th. And you are listening to WithoutYourHead.com.
All right, and welcome to the Station of Decapitation, Without Your Head. I am Nasty Neal, along with my cohorts of crime.
Annabelle Lecter.
And that would make me Terrible Troy.
Excellent. And joining us right off the bat, we have director Scott McKlinay and writer Jim Bartoo of the new horror films coming out, Creep Van.
Hey, guys.
Hey, the Bartoo, it's actually pronounced Bartoo, like Bar 1 and Bar 2.
Or Bartoo D2, or any number of things.
Yeah. As the alcohol kicks in, the name takes on various deviations. Anyway, thanks for having us, you guys.
Thank you.
What's going on?
It's a pleasure to have you. Thank you very much for coming on.
Yeah.
Happy to be here.
As we mentioned earlier, off the air, Annabelle and I watched a movie together, along with one of our other partners on the show, Tommy Doom, and it's just a real fun horror movie to watch. Which, like you guys said, if you're looking for like this real gritty, like feel-bad movie, maybe wouldn't be for you. But if you're looking for like a fun throwback '80s slasher film, it's a lot of fun.
Well, if you're looking for a gritty, not feel-good movie, then rent Gag, our first movie from 2006. It's pretty bad. And I don't mean bad in a Michael Jackson way. I mean just bad. Now, we did learn a lot on the first film, but yeah, thanks. Jim did a great job with the material. As everybody knows in this business, writing good dialogue and just good writing itself is really hard. There's a reason that not very many people can do it.
That's why we went along with the bad dialogue, and it seems to have worked out.
Jim's too, the dialogue is good. It's funny how a good dialogue doesn't get much attention. Bad dialogue draws a lot of attention, and nobody pays too much attention to the dialogue. Overly pays attention to the dialogue in Creep Van, and that's to Jim's credit. But yeah, we were trying to sort of balance, between some cool horror elements that from the films that we liked growing up. And then some of the things that were kind of funny, obviously the Evil Dead films were big influences, and some of the stuff where there's some kind of, crazy moments of over-the-top, campy cheesiness that are hard to strive for, but when you hit the mark, they're fun. So hopefully we succeeded.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking of, like, Dead Alive. It was one of the movies that came to mind. Just the insanity of the deaths. It was just incredible. The things that you guys came up with are just funny and disgusting and perfect. They were great.
Well, we had Jim tell him, we sat around with beer and pizza, and we're like, riffing on, what could happen? How can people die in a car? We had scenes that didn't make it in the movie, like a scene, Jim, you remember we had a scene where there was going to be a scene where the creep brought the van into an auto body or mechanical shop, and a mechanic to get something fixed, and that he was gonna the guy was gonna stick his face under the hood, and the creep was gonna push a button, and the hood was gonna close on his head, and then his face was gonna get forced into the fan.
Into the fan. That's right.
Amazing.
Yeah.
For the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Universal remake for $30 million will have all of this and more. I promise.
Yeah, and then Jim, tell about the other scene with the we had another scene that we thought was kind of funny where there wasn't necessarily any blood in it, but about a tow truck driver. Remember where the creep himself got spooked or whatever?
Yeah. We thought there's always this moment in the film where none of the characters can be anything but terrified, by whoever the killer is, and the killer is just, he's unstoppable and this and that. And we had this thought where the van was pulled over, it was broken down, and this poor sap in a tow truck was going to come up and presumably be massacred. But as he gets out of the truck, he's big and burly with a monkey wrench in his back pocket, and the last shot of the scene would have been the creep taking off, saying "fuck this."
Actually, scared of out scared by the menacing tow truck driver with the grease under his fingernails. But all kinds of things come out of that. We're like, okay, then are we sort of temporarily gutting the supposed terrifyingness of the creep, and you start to overthink stuff. But Yeah, we really did sit around and just kind of, muse on about what could be done and how we could do it, with no money and a small talented group of friends that are also filmmakers, that worked on the project.
Well, I think
so what kind of budget did you have for this movie? Because it looks good. We tell people under 500,000, and we're not that far under it, but. Like I tell people, Jim and I always say, it's not a lot of money to make a movie, but it's a lot of money. Yeah.
Well, it's certainly a lot of money for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, the budget, Jim, talk about budget for a minute. I mean, it's always the huge, it's the huge common denominator that just, keeps everything, not nearly as cool as it could be. If you have $100 million, you need $120 million,
Yeah,
it's true. I mean, it never really matters what you have. You always need more. But the real fortunate thing, at least this time around, was that, we just had a lot of friends that knew people that were in different fields within filmmaking. Scott can talk a little bit more in a second about Robert Hall and the Almost Human guys that did all the effects for the film. But, as fate would turn out, my next door neighbor is, like an A-list camera guy in big studio films, and was like, yeah, I'd love to DP the movie. And, everybody just kind of knew somebody that was better than Creep Van, if that makes sense. There were just a lot of people in the movie that shouldn't be on the movie. And thank God they were.
It was meant to be.
Yeah, Jim, you raise a good point, and I think actually the way the thing, more specifically how it how it came to fruition. I know we mentioned these kind of points because we're not that far from when we were trying to make our first film, and we're still, obviously, stupid to say, we're still completely learning. We're naive and trying to get much better as filmmakers. But Jim's right. I think a big part of the momentum of getting people involved in the project is that we got our poster. If anybody out there is familiar with the Creep Van poster as it stands in its current incarnation, it's the original poster that we had before we even had a script. We had that poster. And so one of the things that we had going for us early on that I think really gave the whole project a big shot in the arm was that poster created by Dan Chapman of Chapman Design, who's he did Almost Famous with the Kate Hudson with the words Hollywood on the sunglasses. He did People versus Larry Flynn. He did American Beauty. He did huge posters, and he's a friend of a friend, and we cornered him, and one thing led to another, and we convinced him to help us shoot this poster. That van, our van, the Creep Van, was actually parked in a real alley down in a really bad part of downtown Los Angeles. That if you look in the poster closely, the bricks in the street are in the alley are real. The barbed wire is all real. The buildings, the sky behind it's real. We added some color to it and stuff. So we got this really, really gritty, cool, and of course Dan, did a lot. He set up the shoot and professionally shot the thing, and then he of course did some after effects with some blood in the street and all that, and blood on the van, and changed the word Ford across the front of the van to Fear, which is a stroke of genius because it keeps the Ford lawyers at bay, and also gives us a cool little subtle message. But back to our point, which was that we had this poster, and early on we were kind of like, yeah, we're going to make this film. It's called Creep Van, and here's our artwork, and we really didn't. We had like a treatment, if that, but people loved the poster, and it got some people interested in the project that may not necessarily been interested, especially like Jim mentioned, Robert Hall from Almost Human. I went to meet with Robert. He's from Detroit, and I'm from Detroit, and I know him a little bit. And he's a good guy, and I went to him and I said, look, I didn't expect him to do our effects. I said, look, we're trying to make this movie, and he said, who's doing your effects? And I said, Rob, I can't afford you. He did Pineapple Express and The Crazies, and he's done some huge stuff. Almost Human is as A-list as it gets. And anyway, I whipped out the poster. I brought the poster under my arm mounted, and I get in his office, and I'm like, he's like, what's that? And I said, I'll show you in a second. And I started talking about the movie for a minute, and I said, oh yeah, here's our poster. And you could just see his face light up like a kid. He was just like, wow. Shit, man, who did your poster? Like, wow, where'd you get that? And he got real interested in our project right away just because of our poster. So, then Michael Walker did the same thing. He's not necessarily known as
Michael Walker, the DP.
Yeah, the DP, Michael Walker. He's been a camera assistant on Drag Me to Hell with Raimi, and he's done some cool stuff in a medium-sized capacity in the photography area. But he thought, wow, that's a gritty, cool poster. And at one point, once we had Almost Human kind of nibbling around the edges, then like you do in Hollywood, you start dropping names and telling Party A that Party B is interested, and telling Party B that Party A is interested, and pretty soon, people are all interested, and then then we started getting the script flushed out and trying to raise money, and going on from there. So it all started, if anybody's out there trying to get something going, you want to get a cool little simple website up, and you want to get some cool artwork. Artwork is not the kind of thing that people want to try to do it themselves to save money, and chances are there's only one in a million people that can do that really, really well if you're not a graphics guy and understand the intimacies of the posters and the graphic, the image. And so anyway, get those things, lay the groundwork for that kind of stuff, and then you may have more luck, trying to get the other things that are important, like the actors and the money and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Along the lines of the budget, the big scene with the house and the car and the van, if that wouldn't have went well the first take, would it have been possible to do it again?
That's funny.
No.
Yeah, that is definitely a one take. There's no question about it. We had 4 cameras on it, and if anybody out there rents or buys the DVD, there's a cool little extra that Jim and I put together called "Anatomy of a Killer Van Smash," and the climactic shot. It's a little 5-minute tutorial on how we sort of set that up, and the end of that little segment on the DVD extras is the screen is split into 4 cameras, and you see all 4 camera views. And my point is that we had every camera we could get, which is 4 of them, 2 Reds and some kind of other HD camera, and then a little prosumer HD camera mounted in the van. We had all 4 cameras rolling, and there's no question that is definitely a one take. That shot was 6 weeks, 8 weeks in preparation. From design about how we were going to set up, the whole thing about just designing the thing so that the stunt driver could drive into the wall going 40-something miles an hour and plow into the thing and not go through the windshield or not have the house gas tank explode or have something terrible happen. So there was a lot of time and work into that, but no question about it. Absolutely one take, right, Jim?
Yep, that is for sure.
I hope the guy driving that van had a lot of fun, because I would think that would be quite an experience. It's a once-in-a-lifetime event.
Again, there's some stuff on the DVD extras and the bonus features on the DVD that, including a short interview with the stunt driver Chris Sweeney, who did a great job. He's a balls to the walls kind of guy, and he didn't. He was kind of like, yeah, man, how fast do you want me to go? How hard do you want me to hit this thing? It's like that guy, So, but he
did not even want to just hit the back. He wanted to go absolutely all the way through the house. And we're like, no, don't do that. Slam on the brakes as soon as you go through the wall.
Yeah, the problem with that was that the house was built on a small hill, and if you went out the back of that room, which was a garage, which we turned into look like a living room, the van would have dropped about 4 feet, and if the van dropped 4 feet, we only had 2 vans. We had the original 1975 Ford Econoline 100, which is the model of the original creep van in the poster, and then we had a 1977 Ford Econoline 150, which was a longer van, and it's in the movie tons, and as a matter of fact, it's in that shot. We didn't use the original creep van, but my point is if you'd have gone through the entire room, and even the front tires would have gone off the back, gone through the wall and off the back of the foundation, we'd have been down to 1 van, and we only had 2. This is not like Universal, where we would have had a lot full of 25 creep vans. We could just go get another one.
Not to mention the fact that we would have all had to lug the thing out of the yard.
Yeah.
Oh, fair enough. Yep. Yeah, that couldn't have been a good time.
Yeah, it would have made the DVD extra an entirely different story, that's for sure.
Now, not to have any spoilers, but there's a certain death scene where a woman gets a crowbar in her mouth. I was just wondering if the actress herself had to hold that prop in her mouth for a long time while you're filming that, and if that was uncomfortable for her.
Oh,
Jim, you want to talk about that?
Oh, well, I was going to leave it to you, but yeah, I mean, it was a prosthetic from Almost Human, and if I'm not mistaken, I mean, that thing was actually pretty light, right, Scott? I mean, it wasn't too bad.
Yeah, it was the crowbar was rubber, and if you watch that scene really carefully, Jim sees it more than anybody else, and he always spoke to me when we're watching the film. If you watch that scene really carefully, the crowbar is rubber, and as she's being laid to the ground, you see the crowbar with ever so slightly sort of sway back and forth. The rubber's it's flexing a little bit, that obviously a steel crowbar wouldn't. But the short answer is it ends just inside her mouth, and there's a big round, soft, gummy ball that she bit down onto with her back teeth, and kind of held the thing in her mouth, and made it sort of forced her mouth open, so it looks like it's kind of jammed in the back of her throat. But that was Amy Worrell, the co-lead in the film, did a great job. She's one of those kind of, everybody talks about Swami Ted, and of course Brian Kolodziej was the lead. Amy does that thing where she's got to do a lot of listening and just kind of sort of be steady in a lot of scenes, and she did a great job. I mean, there was, she's laying on the concrete with fake dry blood running down her cheeks for 40 minutes while we're all scrambling around trying to get the camera.
Oh man, 4 a.m, freezing cold there. This is northern Michigan in early May, so she's a trooper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that was one of those. That was another Almost Human thing. I mean, the guys from Almost Human, Eric Porn, Robert Hall, of course, who owns it, and Eric Porn, his right hand man. They made things. Eric was just such a cool guy to work with. He's just an easygoing guy. He's really talented. He's really smart. He's really generous, and he held everything together. And when we were like, hey, how are we going to do this? And Eric's like, we can do this, or we can do that, and we can do this. Those guys from Almost Human just, they made it look effortless, and it's anything but effortless. But I think the result's pretty cool.
Definitely. I think something that comes across a lot when talking to you guys, how much fun it was to make this movie, even at the level where you were just talking about the different kills and everything. Was it always going to be a van, and where did that come from? Where did the idea of doing a horror movie about a creeper in a van?
It's funny. We always joke about this, but the whole thing literally came about when we had been talking about doing a movie together, another horror movie, and we've just been playing around with ideas, and at some point, I don't know what I was looking at that kind of hit me that way, but I just thought creep van, and I texted Scott immediately, and he texted back, holy shit, yes, that's the movie. So, we didn't have any story or anything like that. It was just a name, and the name was kind of like, wow, there has never really been a movie about a creepy guy in a rape van driving around, and it was just it wrote itself from there. But it was the name, and just from the name, it was certainly always going to be the van.
Yeah.
Where did all the little the sexual acts come from the couple, like in the doghouse and later on in the movie?
Hey, listen, this is where this conversation gets ugly. This is all Jim Bartoo. This is the deep this is the dark recesses of Jim Bartoo's mind. I don't know what happened to this kid in kindergarten when he was taking those naps on the little rugs or whatever, but this is all. I'll let Jim riff on it in a second, but I say half kiddingly and half seriously that I remember the first early drafts of this stuff with this crazy kinky stuff, and I was like always softly trying to talk Jim out of this stuff with this doghouse stuff and all this, and he never budged. He's like, look, I think this is funny, and if we shoot this right, it will be funny. And I was always like, dude, it seems kind of out there, and it seems kind of goofy, and my biggest fear was if it didn't come out right and it wasn't funny, if people would be pointing and laughing like when you slip and fall in the mall, and that's what we didn't want. And but Jim never wavered, man. So I don't know where he got some of that stuff, Jim.
Well, I mean, the original part with the doghouse, it's funny. If you go online, you can find it. But we had done a teaser trailer. Again, it was before we had the script really worked out, and it was certainly before we had shot any of it. And we were just putting together random things that we thought would kind of fall into creep van. And one of them, because of the fact that we didn't know who was going to be in it or this or that. Your boy Scott McKlinay here, we had him actually in the doghouse coming out without a shirt, wearing the wrestling mask, and sitting on the doghouse saying the line about, you might think this is crazy, but I think you should buy the van. And, it was just weird and random. I've always been a big David Lynch fan and just kind of like the weird things that you're like, why is that there? I don't know, but it's kind of cool on its own and it's weird and blah, blah, blah.
Well, it was a little bit, if you know the backstory about the whole El Mariachi, the Robert Rodriguez film, I'm semi-obsessed with Rodriguez and some of the stuff he's done and does. And the story goes that, when he did El Mariachi, he sat around and he had, $7,000 supposedly, and he was thinking what he had at his disposal. He supposedly had a school bus, which he had access to, and he had this guitar, and he had this really tall ladder, and he had these goofy little things. He made this little list of stuff that he either owned or he knew he could use to make some form of a movie. And so that was kind of the inspiration, I think, for Jim and I when we were doing this little teaser trailer, which is pretty funny. Not at the time we thought it was so cool, and it's still kind of cool in a kitsy way, but now it's a little bit dorky. But anyway, our point was, we were just kind of looking for footage that we could just little segments, little tidbits, little silhouettes of stuff that we could just rope together for this teaser trailer that didn't necessarily have to make sense. It just would be sort of engaging and kind of make you kind of stand back and scratch your head and go, wait, what was that? And why was somebody doing that? And so, my brother had this German Shepherd, and he had this dog kennel and had this little igloo doghouse thing in it. And I'm like, hey, what if we, Jim brought over his wrestling mask, and there was never any concept where the doghouse was married to the wrestling mask, but we thought, what if we put the wrestling mask on and just take a fast shot of the guy coming out of the doghouse? It was just to make people go, wait, is that a guy in a Mexican wrestling mask coming out of a doghouse? Just long enough to do that. And so we just kind of did that because we had those kinds of things available to us, and we threw it all in the teaser trailer thing. And I don't know, dare I say, the thing isn't killer, but it's kind of interesting, and it's kind of quirky, and it's kind of funny, and it apparently worked because we got a few people interested from shooting that thing. So that was kind of that I think that was the original seed of the idea with the doghouse in the film, was that we had this weird, quirky little moment in the teaser trailer, and then Jim kind of just riffed on it, as he's been known to do, and started sort of, ingrained it into the script, and he would not let go of that idea, man, and I'm glad he didn't.
No, it's great because, I think part of what makes it really fun is that, Bob the roommate, whenever Campbell's talking about him, he's, not really referring to him as anything but his roommate. He's just, if you didn't know better, he's just this normal guy, and Campbell plays it off as if, there's nothing odd about him at all, and meanwhile, he's out of his fucking mind.
Yeah, exactly. And, in the movie, our editor, Jerry Knott, N-O-T-T, Gerald Knott, he's great if you can get him. He's on our team with Michael Walker and the Almost Human guys. And anyway, Jerry worked really well to make some of this. We didn't have a lot of coverage and a lot of scenes. Sometimes we have several scenes where we only have one take of the scene, especially the fight scenes and some of that stuff. We were just completely out of time. We were, it was 4:40 or 4:50 in the morning, and the sun was coming up at 5:10, and we're setting up for an elaborate fight scene. We have literally 15 minutes or 20 minutes. Just stupid, suicidal, kind of ridiculous scenarios of trying to get something complicated and get any kind of good coverage. And thankfully, Jerry, the editor, along with Michael Darrow, did a great job of reversing shots and switching stuff around. And so when we get to the doghouse stuff like that, we actually had a couple takes of that. So that stuff was in some respects, easier to piece together and make sense out of than some of the other stuff. But yeah, on paper, you're never quite sure how this stuff is going to look. And again, dare I say, I think the stuff came out as well as we could have hoped, considering time and budget and, the fact that we were kind of flying by the seat of our pants a lot, right, Jim?
Yeah, for sure.
So are you guys really happy with how this all came together? Ultimately, you came in with the vision, and it sounds like it really took a kind of a life of its own. So what do you think about the end product?
Well, Jim and I talk about it all the time still, it's like anything. Any project, I should say, it's corny and stupid to say but if we had another week and, if we had 4 or 5 more days to shoot and 25 more grand, the movie would be, exponentially better, 50% better, I swear.
Wow.
But It's frustrating for us because when we watch it, we do, we know the film's got some holes in it. I mean, every film does.
Yeah.
And so, overall, we'd be lying if we didn't say, I think I can speak for Jim. We're proud of the movie. It came out cool. We were worried that people would get it, and people seem to be getting it. The reviews online, there's some people that are mad at us and don't like the film, but for the most part, people seem to be getting it. There's a lot of people that like the film, and there's a lot of people that like the film a lot. And that's obviously gratifying. I mean, in the world, let's be honest, if you could push a button and have somebody like you or not like you, or push a button and have somebody like something or not like something you created, obviously most of us would lean towards so we're happy with it. It's difficult at spots because we both know, again, like the end, one of the scenes at the end of the film, the sun is literally coming up, and it looks, I don't want to tip people off if anyone wants to see it, but it looks like we set some really cool tone with some sepia tone effects in like the in the post-production room, when in fact it's just really blue and cool because it's dawn and the sun's coming up. And in the original, when we were in the original footage, when we were sitting in the editing room editing this thing, you hear all these birds chirping, and all of a sudden you can kind of hear like a dog start to bark, and you kind of hear some cars starting up, and it's like it's morning and people are getting up, and we're like, it's supposed to be the middle of the night. And so when you watch those kind of moments in the film, we're just like, oh, God, if we just had another half hour of darkness or an hour of darkness, and we were so rushed in so many spots and so pressed for time, and just a lot of the effects and stuff, as great as they are, Almost Human was doing stuff, they were working on 2-3 effects at one time, and, literally running from setup to setup and shooting stuff. So it's frustrating for us because we know we could do so much better, and the film could be so much better, but there it is. It's done. It's locked. It's all we could get out of it. We wrung the towel out as hard as we could and got every drop out of it we could, and that's the end result. So it's good, and we like it, but next Creep Band 2 will really be good, right, Jim? So
Creep Van 2 Blood Drive.
There you go.
Yeah, Creep Band 2 Blood Drive. Jim won't let that go. I keep telling him, come on, dude. We got to move on from Creep Band.
So I am kind of curious because you guys seem to have like such a passion for what you're doing and this total excitement about what's going on. How did you guys meet up originally?
Wow, that I had to stop and think for half a second there because it's been a long time. Ironically enough, Scott used to work for Troma Films.
Oh, okay.
Back in about 18 lifetimes ago, when they had their Los Angeles office. I was working at a place called Hollywood.com, and we were doing a promotion together. Wasn't that it, Scott?
That's it, man. Jim came over to do an interview with Lloyd Kaufman, who's in the movie, a longtime friend. Thank you. And we hit it off. We started talking about movies and talking about life, and we ended up working on a publicity event together in Park City at Sundance in 1999 or something, or 2000, I think it was.
Yeah.
Back during the dot-com explosion when everybody had money and was throwing it all around town. And so, we just became friends from working on this thing together, and then started hanging out, and we worked together on Gag, and both knew Gag, was frustrating because it could be so much better. I mean, we shot Gag for $19,000, $19,870 or something, and we got into Walmart, and and we sold it worldwide, but we didn't get paid because we got screwed by our distributor at Think Film, and anyway, it's a long story, but we learned a lot, and but yeah, we met back in the late '90s, of 1999 or something, and Jim, I'm from the Midwest. Jim's from originally out here, and you don't meet too many people from Southern California. They're born out here that are kind of down to earth. Jim's a good guy in a sense that my roots for being from the Midwest and being from Michigan. You gravitate towards people that are sort of sincere and loyal and sort of follow through with what they say they're going to do. And in Los Angeles, man, that's hard to find.
Yeah.
So Jimbo was, I spotted him early on, I think, as a good candidate for a loyal friend, and here we are 12 years later.
Wow, that's great.
That's pretty awesome.
Excellent.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, exactly, man.
Bring up that you guys are cool enough to send us some copies of the DVD to give out on the show, and I've been thinking of ways to give these out. Maybe everyone who's listening out there, if you could take a photo of you in your vehicle and try to creep it up, and we'll give out the DVDs to the 5 creepiest photos that are sent in.
Oh, I like
Love
that.
it. Love it.
All right. Maybe we can get you guys in as judges, too, if we get a lot of entries.
Hey, happy to be there.
Yeah. Sounds like a good time. We want to thank you guys for coming on. And,
Thank you.
We prefer those submissions to be topless. Does anyone?
All right, I'm taking my shirt off right now when I get the picture.
Nice.
Right.
Not what I had in mind, but I like where you're going.
All right.
And again, coming out December 11th on DVD. So everybody, go pre-order your copy.
Please.
Yes.
Yeah,
They make great stocking stuffers.
Exactly.
It's on. It's going to be at Walmart. I think the Best Buy. It's on iTunes and Netflix and Barnes and Noble and Redbox and so yeah. You know, and look, you can follow us on Facebook, and there's a Creep Band website. You can even send us an email if anybody's out there that's trying to put together a movie and they want to hire Jim to write it. Just send in an email, and Jim, yeah, you can have Jim for a 6-pack of good beer. That's no problem.
Maybe even bad beer on a bad night.
Nice. You guys, thanks, man. This has really been fun. Let us know what else happens and shakes out, and we're here if you need us.
Excellent.
Great. Thank you so much.
Really appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that was a good time.
Let everybody know we're going to be going to break. You're going to be playing Dead Santa, or Santa's Dead by Strange Nocturnal, and then we'll be back shortly.
Woohoo!
Thanks.
Happy Valentine's Day, everyone, from George Minhalka, director of My Bloody Valentine. And you're listening to WithoutYourHead.com. And keep your head on and watch our movie again.